in for a wild night.
Welcome everybody to episode 111 of Born to be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out with friends talking about the Wild format of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the Wild community. I'm your host as always, Nate Wolf. It is great to be back on a beautiful, kind of sunny and rainy at the same time, spring evening here in Portland, Oregon. Still, I'm now negative from COVID, thank God. Although I'm still having some kind of coughing and shortness of breath stuff, and so I'm going to be leaning on my friends here tonight to hopefully talk a little bit more than me, and I will do my best to mute the microphone when I start hacking. And apologies in advance if I slip and not press the button in time. But anyways, very excited to be back tonight. We're doing a full show tonight talking about these nerfs. We've got a really fun guest, and we'll be casting a Born to be Wild Listener Series match directly after the show. So stay tuned, and we'll be here for a really fun night. Very excited, again, to be joined by some of my favorite people. And my favorite surprised Pikachu over here, my good friend Blutrane. Welcome back to the show. How are you tonight?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me on for such an eventful week that we had. There's going to be lots to talk about for sure.
Right? I mean, I had heard, hey, I've got some hot takes. I'm, excited to talk about nerfs and stuff, and we got quite a bit. I mean, there's some cards that got hit, and a lot of them don't impact Wild all that much, but there's a couple, and as this has been coined, the summer of Big Shaman. I think it was a
very short summer. I guess we are having a La Nina season, so it's keeping the theme.
Oh, very good. Well, I'm happy to have you back, Hydra. Welcome back. How are you tonight?
I'm doing really good. It's great to be back. I'm glad to see that Blutrane's okay. I was a little concerned when I saw him locked in the backseat of that car the other day. Is it bad?
Not even the window being open ajar.
Rude.
I know.
Is it bad that when I saw a Pikachu decal on a car, I didn't think of Pikachu? I thought of Blutrane. I think that's pretty good. It's no longer Pikachu. It's Blutrane.
Yeah, I think you have
branding exercise is complete.
I was gonna say you have appropriated the Pikachu very successfully.
But yeah, I'm doing great. I'm totally ready to do the show. We got some cool nerfs to talk about, and yeah, I'm doing great, guys.
Very good, very good. And of course, back from DC and armed with internet. Welcome back, Electric Sheep City. How are you?
Meowdy friends, I'm doing really well. Very happy to be back in the connected Denver area. I was without internet for the vast majority of the past week. I mentioned right before we recorded last week's episode that my internet's kind of been cutting in and out. That was my last day with internet.
How did you survive for
yesterday.
A week?
I hotspotted a lot of things. Since I had just gone to DC, I had downloaded a lot of things to my tablet already. But yeah, I mean, dude, it was rough. I'm so glad to be back in the land of the connected.
Weird how you can get used to that, hey?
No joke. It was like I was back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Not having internet is like not having a refrigerator. I don't know. It's how do you even... I'll have to talk to y'all about it later, but we've got new internet arriving this weekend. I'm going to experiment with a different company, and it's an interesting concept, so I'll have to chat about that with everybody afterwards. I don't want to derail the show more than we already have tonight, but very excited to be back with a bunch of new stuff tonight.
Yeah, so without further ado, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. Let me briefly explain how the show works. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs. And the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. So, however you're watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
Whoa! Yeah, thank you, everybody. We appreciate everybody hanging out, both the folks who are here joining us live on Twitch. It's always great to see you, and the folks that are listening to the audio version of this podcast and those watching it on YouTube. Really appreciate your support. It means a lot to us. Before we get going, just some very brief housekeeping. Wanted to say a big giant thank you to Shokunin and to the other patrons of our show. Your support means the world to us, and we just really appreciate you. And so wouldn't be the same without you. Thank you so much. If you are interested in supporting our show, there's a couple of quick things that you can do. If you want to like, comment, subscribe to our stuff on YouTube, that helps other people find us. Same thing with the audio versions of the podcast. If you want to, subscribe or leave comments, reviews, or whatever on your podcast app of choice, that helps other people find us. If you are watching us live on Twitch, we do have some emotes that you can unlock by following for free. We've got emotes that you can unlock by subscribing, and that's free if you have Twitch Prime. So anyways, yeah. Wanted to quickly say that Blutrane was just talking about it as the wonderful shill that you are. Right before we started recording, we have our merch shop is live, and so we've got a bunch of shirts and stuff up. If you go to our website, Hydra's wearing one. How nice. I like it. If you go if you go to our website, borntobewildhs.com, there's a merch link up in the menu bar with all the other stuff, and it goes off to the merch shop. And been very happy with the quality of these. We try to price them like as low as possible, and so a bunch of different designs up there, and pretty happy with how they all turned out. So if you're interested in checking that out, probably a dozen different designs that you can get in a bunch of different colors. They cost $20. Anyhow, what else do I have here? Last thing, if you're interested in supporting us financially, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Links to that are on our website. And finally, if you're interested in interacting with any of us, we do have a Discord that you can join. There's no cost associated with that at all. It's just a free online hangout place with a bunch of friends that we've made all across the world. We have fun talking about life and games and Hearthstone, sharing deck lists, and a bunch of other stuff. Links to all of that and more can be found at our website, which is borntobewildhs.com. Cool. All right. The housekeeping is out of the way.
The house has
thank you,
been
Nightbot, pimping our merch over here.
You're welcome.
I love it. Thank you, Sheep. All right, listener series. We got some listener series stuff happening.
Yeah, so this is week 5 of season 5 of the Born to Be Wild listener series. So this is the final week of the regular season. And after the show tonight, we are casting a match between 2 of the good doctors in the house. So we've got Dr. BOMD and Dr. Fish, and we will be casting that match live after the show, like Nate mentioned. But of course, if you're watching or listening to this on the replay, check out YouTube, because we have that posted in a separate video as well. So if you want to pause this now and watch that, cool. If you want to watch it afterwards, also cool. If you don't,
Not cool.
Anyway.
Not cool.
So this week's challenge for week 5 is called Dredge the Deep.
Ooh, and
I will
have
kick it over to recorded Goliath the Dwarf to give us a little lore segment behind what Dredge the Deep means this week.
With the city of Zinajari now sunken and in ruins, Queen Ajara instructed her denizens to build her new empire and its capital, the city of Nazjatar. In the cold, dark silence of the deeps, they grew their power to rule the world once more. What treasures remain hidden amongst the ruins of Zinajari? Only the bravest and deepest treasures could ever know.
epic.
So epic. So tonight's primary challenge, this week's primary challenge, is that each deck must contain at least 15 cards that are mech tribe cards, or cards that have the dredge keyword, or cards that have the discover keyword. So 15 cards within the deck have to either be mechs, dredge, or discover. So as long as 15 have at least one of those, you meet that part of the restriction for this week, the secondary challenge, is that each deck must have exactly 15 neutral and 15 class cards. And this week, hero cards are banned. So no Malfurion, no Guff. I don't know why I'm only doing Druid, but neither of those. Honestly, the most relevant one for that is Dr. Boom Mad Genius, because with the 15
all the mechs.
mech,
Yeah.
that would have just been too powerful. So I think that was the biggest restriction there.
It really was.
So I had a lot of fun building my decks this week. What was your experience piloting my decks, Nate?
so this is what happened. I messaged Sheep earlier in the week and I said I have a confession to make. I was having so much fun playing Horizon 2 and like I was right at the very end of it and I'm sitting here looking at the clock. It's 10 o'clock. Like, okay, so deck submissions due by 11:59. And it's 10 o'clock. I'm like, well, you know, I'm at the very end. I'm going to do this boss fight. It's 10:30, 11, 11:15, 11:30. I'm like, I still got time. 11:45. I'm like at the final boss fight. And I was like, pause, ran upstairs because we were checking each other's deck lists. And I was like, copy, paste. So I blatantly just ripped off your deck list. It was very fun, and I appreciate you very much because I won this week with your decks. Great games from my opponent. But your decks, I was able to pilot successfully. So thank you much. They were very fun.
Great.
I enjoy mechs. In classic Sheep style, they were all very like. It was interesting because I usually build my own, and they were a lot more aggressive than I normally go. And it's just the Sheep style, right? Like it was like aggro paladin and aggro druid, and you know, but kind of mech based, and it was great. It was really great. It was a lot of fun. So thank you. I'm still not making it to the finals, but that's okay. I have more fun. I have more fun like on the back end doing like the production.
Yeah, so it's funny. The only one that I didn't actually make myself was the Druid. I did like an initial pass. It was all right, and then Dr. BOMD's deck, Schmoopy sent that to me, and I was like, "This is so much better than my first pass." And I tried it out, and it was great. And I was like, "Yep, moving with that one." And so that was the only one I had any external input. And it's the one that I'm the most known for. So kind of ironic there. Hydra, what was your deck building experience this go around as well?
I think it was kind of funny because I paid most attention to the first rule that said you must have like 15 mechs. I didn't really pay attention to the dredge and the next one. What's the other
Discover.
one?
Discover.
Discover and dredge. I saw mechs. And then I saw 15 neutral and 15 class, and that's the rules that I followed. And I completely forgot about the dredge and the discover. So my decks
they're still valid.
Are all just full mech decks, basically. So and then afterwards, I was like, oh well.
Delightful.
I'm sure it'll be fine. But actually, I was reminded by my opponent because I was messaged by my opponent on Tuesday night about when we were going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided on a date. And then about like 20 minutes later or something, I was like, I should probably think about building decks. And then I was like, it's Tuesday. So sort of similar to Nate. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? But yeah, so I zeroed in on that fact that it was supposed to be mechs, but I'm sure we'll do just fine.
It'll be fine.
As long as you have fun. That's what the listener series is all about. So yeah, so that is our challenge for this week. So we can't wait to cast the match between the two good doctors to find out which is the better doctor. The better at this particular week, at least. And both of them are like right on the cusp of making it into the playoffs. So this match has stakes. So stay tuned if you're watching live and catch that replay on YouTube if you are not.
Yeah, buddy. I'm excited for it. It'll be a lot of fun.
Excitement abounds. So, this week's special topic, I'm going to kick it off to our next topic area for the nerfs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lots of nerfs. My goodness.
It's basically
More than two.
yeah, it's the most news that we have this week. So it's basically kind of one segment all lumped into one. But yeah, we got some nerfs. I'm gonna kick it off reading the dev comments at the beginning before we discuss what the nerfs are. But the dev comments were, we have a lot of big standard balance changes coming this patch and one for wild, which are attempting to accomplish a few different goals. First, we want to lower the power level of the most powerful decks in the current metagame. Fell, Demon Hunter, and Control Warrior variants. Roughly half the changes in this patch are balance motivated and intended to target the win rates of these decks directly. The rest of the changes in this patch are not primarily motivated by power level, but are instead focused on improving the play against experience of some of the more polarizing cards in the game. So they stated that most are for standard here and one for wild. There's kind of two for wild that we'll see, but we'll focus. We'll kind of run through what we have for all of the nerfs, and we can leave the last couple that focus in more on wild for right at the end. So
I do want to give big props real quick to so Gallon was previously the dev who was in charge of like the public facing like dev comments or whatever, and Gallon has moved on to what is it, the initial design team or something like that. Anyways, so our new dev person who is, I guess, the front facing like commenter on this stuff is Aleko. He explained it's Aleko Gareco on Twitter, and he had some thread explaining where that name comes from. But anyhow, there is a 24-part tweet thread going over all of the dev comments for all of the various balance changes, which is kind of crazy. Like that's like a lot of explanation. And so there's a link to it in the show notes if anyone wants to review that, and it's quite a bit. But anyhow, yeah, let's just start here. There's a whole mess of them. So what do we want to look at first?
Before you jump right in, I think there's also another interesting kind of meta around this balance change as well. We didn't really see it coming.
No, we got the announcement of the announcement, and then it was one day later. Yeah,
like we saw. I mean, we knew in Wild there were some fundamentally broken things, but Standard was a little less clear. A lot of people that I know who play Standard weren't particularly happy, but there wasn't really consensus around it, and things looked kind of balanced if you looked at the matchup charts and the meta. Usually updates happen on Tuesdays. This was announced on a Wednesday and dropped on a Thursday. I like this. I don't like the lame duck periods that are introduced when you announce that something's going to change and then you have this like lull. I kind of like the whole like, we were all like, oh, are they going to nerf wild stuff? Are they not? And it was kind of like, we're going to find out in less than 12 hours. So
yeah,
that was nice. I liked it.
It's better than everyone like perseverating over it for a week or whatever.
Well, and to yes, and I liked that it was the announcement of the announcement on Wednesday. So it's not like, oh, people are playing whatever deck it is that's about to be nerfed like into the ground. It was, hey, nerfs are coming tomorrow. You'll also get the patch notes that morning. And so it kind of, oh, if you're really enjoying a deck, play that one rather than kind of forcing, I mean, not forcing people, but if people have a FOMO, a fear of missing out of playing something that's about to be nerfed, they no longer really have that. They just are playing their deck. So I thought that was a really interesting psychological approach as well. And I really liked that implementation too.
I will say it throws off like, what was it? I think THL is like just getting into the finals, right? And then we're almost there. And so it's tricky anytime there's balance updates for, and there's tournaments going on. But like, it is what it is. I think we just deal with it.
Yeah. All right, well, let's hop into the nerfs that we have. First one we have is Shield Shatter. So this is going from dealing 5 damage to all minions down to 4 damage to all minions. So this just seems to be one of those control tools in Warrior that they were discussing. Anyone have any thoughts on this card? We don't see it as something that we play it at all. And if we're going to play Control Warrior, we kind of want it to be odd. What do you guys think?
Even Warrior.
I mean, I played some Standard last month. I hit Legend in Standard. I don't do that every month. This card was obnoxious. I still think it's probably good because oftentimes the Warrior's playing it heavily discounted. But it does change the breakpoint. So I think that this will be a significant nerf for the Warrior deck, coupled with all the other ones. So again, this card was never relevant in Wild, but I do think that this was one of those real feels bad cards in Standard.
It was bad to play against.
I mean, full disclosure, I am not a Control player. People who know me well will know that. And I don't begrudge people who like to play Control, but everybody always thinks they want a Control meta. And then when Control Warrior's top dog, feels pretty bad.
Oh gosh, no, yeah. Not only does it feel bad, and then if you got to learn how to play it, or then you're playing games that are 20 minutes long, like, yeah.
And this was kind of one of the centerpieces to that, like a very cheap board clear. It's very strong in the context of that Standard game. But yeah, no one was even running it in like Copium Warrior, which is like the non-odd Control Warrior kind of meme that goes around. So, but yeah, good. Hopefully a good change. We're already seeing less Warrior in the HS replay stats and Standard. So clearly that and the others is having a bit of an effect.
Yeah, and there's been a pretty extensive nerfs here. This being one piece of that. I think that this particular that Shield Shatter itself was just kind of a bit of a nudge. I think it was an important one, but I do think that some of the ones that we'll discuss a little bit down the line are a little bit more indicative of that sudden Standard drop in Control Warrior.
Indeed.
Yeah. So our next one, also a Warrior card, Untitled Revenant. Its old battle cry was battle cry deal 5 damage, gain 8 armor. Is now deal 5 damage, gain 5 armor. No change to the stats or the card itself. It's just that text getting the 3 less armor. Just another tool that they can use. Any thoughts on this one, guys?
I don't recall this one. I'm sure it was played against me, but probably coupled with the fact that Shield Shatter is doing less and you're gaining less armor. It's kind of that what Sheep was talking about, that kind of cumulative effect. I find that when playing against Warrior, it's those big armor gain swing turns that just feel so bad. Like I'm a little surprised. I don't know about the data, but if we're talking about feels bad, like Rokara in Standard feels so bad with that 10 armor and that instant removal. It's like, the game is like going to go on for another 15 minutes, win or lose. So this kind of takes that kind of like swing down. I mean, I don't remember. Did this card see much play in the Warrior deck? I assume so, but I can't recall.
I don't even know if it's from the main set or the mini set. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it's from the mini set, and it saw a decent amount of play. Kind of post mini set release. I actually just got some Control Warrior reps in, kind of preparing for my Legacy THL match, and before the nerfs were live or announced. And I'm not typically a Control player, so I was just like, I'll get some reps. Like this deck is just probably going to be banned, but I'm just gonna get reps so that I'm proficient at piloting it. And Untitled Revenant is one that I incorporated in the lists that I grabbed, and both of the Vicious Syndicate lists ran it. And I was like, really? We're running this? And then I actually played it and I was like, oh yeah, really? We're running that. I mean, this keeps it from basically being as, exactly what you were saying, Blue. Like you're just gaining a lot of armor. Like it was Cenarian Ward, but you know exactly what you're getting, and you're dealing 5 damage instead of just getting the 8 armor. Like it was just really strong. And this kind of pairs that back a little bit. So it's basically Cenarian Ward where you know what you're getting, but you're not getting as much of that armor. And that's kind of translating into the 5 damage dealt. So, I mean, I think this was a good nerf. I don't think we're going to really see Title Revenant in Standard like at all anymore. And I think that's probably okay.
All right. Well, this next one kind of made me sad. It actually made me really sad. The next one is the nerf to Nellie's pirate ship. This, put those thumbs down, Blutrane. Oh my gosh.
So what Hydra's trying to say to you there, Blue, is whoa, Nelly.
So
the battle cry is discover Smite and 2 other pirates.
So
you discover Smite, he cost 1. Like, get out of here.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, which I'm sure you do, the old text read taunt, death rattle, add Nellie's pirate crew to your hand. They cost 1. 1, that's important, right? The new is taunt, death rattle, add Nellie's pirate crew to your hand. They cost 1 less. This is that one word of adding less just destroys, like, nukes this card. Like,
this is like an old school, like, Ben Brode era nerf. It may as well say your charge minions have +1 attack. Like, this card is never going to see play again.
I played it today, but I was playing Naga Priest in Standard, and I discovered it off of. I got it from Queen Ajara as my like one mana colossal, and it gave me Smite and 2 other pirates. And because I had played it so late in the game, I got Smite, and I got the captain that gives every other pirate +1/+1, whatever it's called, and I got the
captain,
the 2/3 that gains buff plus your weapon. And like the next turn, I still played all 3 of them, and they all had charge, and then I won. It was like
card drove me nuts. I thought it was a cool card. Like, in a way, like, it's one of those mixed emotion things. As like on paper, like, it's a really cool design, but then like the frequency of Smite, the fact that it cost 1, all the other mana cheat that the warrior deck gets. Like, I mean, I think the theme here is really clear. If your card, and this is foreshadowing the wild changes, if your card is cheating mana, it's probably going to break the game, or at least be what your play strategy is centered around. This was essentially a huge mana cheat card for Standard. Your Smite cost 1. Even other pirates that are reasonably statted. I mean, it's just backbreaking when you vomit that number of stats on the board. Not to mention that the colossal itself is pretty well statted for its cost too.
Yeah.
So this is kind of surprising, but like clearly this was an outlier. Maybe they were fearful that it was going to cause further problems down the line. I don't know, but it seemed a bit more than I would have expected.
I mean, I feel like they kind of nerfed it into the ground. They didn't have to say one less. They could have said 2 less or something. I don't know, but
that's bad.
Or your pirates cost 2. I don't know. But now, I mean,
in Standard, Nelly was the most played colossal, period. And now it definitely won't be. Like, it went from being hands down the best to maybe not hands down the worst, but like probably
close. Yeah.
Sorry, Hydra.
I know. I tried playing it yesterday as soon as the nerfs went live, and I mean, it's still, like Nate said, it still does things, but like it can get you there. It's going to provide you. You should be trying to complete your quest at this point anyway, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it gave you that extra fuel, those extra cards that you needed if you weren't drawing right or whatever.
Yeah, it's the second Smite.
I mean, I tried this in Pirate Warrior yesterday in Standard and was like, I mean, surely it's still like fine. No, like it's not just.
I know it's
not great anymore. It's just like not even good.
Wow.
They could have at least, I don't know, made it a pirate.
The least they could have done was this.
Well, Yeah, no, and I don't know necessarily. Like, I don't think that this was being played in Wild, anyways, because they nuked Pirate Warrior so hard already.
we'll never
But it
be.
also cost 5. I mean, the game's over by turn 5.
That's true. That's true.
The only way you play a 5-cost card is if it's in Druid, because they have 20 mana by turn 5.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean,
right.
the only place that this possibly goes is either like you discover it, or or randomly generate it, or you, like, I suppose could play it in some funky version of like Odd Warrior, which is not a deck, so never mind.
And discover a bunch of garbage to put in your ship.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
All right, well, let's move on then.
Yeah.
Let's
so
set sail.
From the Depths has been nerfed. All it is raising 1 mana on this, but Sheep seems really excited that this has happened.
Oh, I'm so excited for so many reasons about this. I hated playing against Control Warrior as the aggressive kind of role. It was, I mean, they just rolled us, and this is one of the reasons why. So From the Depths, going from 3 to 4 slows it down, which lets us get there. But more importantly, it takes it out of the school teacher pool. So school teacher, which also got hit by the stats, but the effect is the same. Adds a 1/1 Noggling to your hand. Discover a spell that costs 3 or less to teach it. Whenever your Control Warrior opponent was playing 3, 4 From the Depths, sometimes more with Bran effects in conjunction with the Noggling. I mean, it was just they're mana cheating like whoa. They're discounting their whole, essentially their whole deck. I mean, it felt like it. It's only 5 cards, but it feels like their whole deck. They're getting stuff for super cheap, and then they're like Finley or like somehow dredging stuff out, and it's like, oh, come on. And of course, the fact that From the Depths itself has dredge, discount something, bring it up to the top. You're paying the 3 mana that you're discounting it by now, and then all to say, I'm so happy that this was nerfed. This was the nerf that I expected from whenever they did the announcement of the announcement. I was expecting From the Depths to get hit somehow. I think this is probably the most effective and the most eloquent way they could do it, and I'm really, really happy.
Well,
What do
I'm
you think,
happy
Blue?
you're happy.
Thank you.
I everything you said is pretty much was my experience. Again, when you cheat that much mana and you have such an ability to repeat it over and over again, it's quite egregious. So yeah, if anything, it looks like a light touch, but actually this kind of, I think this card is probably gonna see limited play unless there's more things that support it in the future. We obviously don't know what the future holds, but in its current state, it's kind of there with Nelly.
Yeah.
Nelly went to the depths, and the depths took it with it. So
I don't know. I think we could play this in Even Warrior.
Get out of here.
All right.
All right, Sheep, challenge. Take Even Warrior to Legend.
I mean, it's easy enough to do with 11 stars. You can get there with a 45% win rate. Easy being a relative term. I'll possible with, yeah. Anyways, I probably shouldn't speak because I wouldn't be able to do it myself.
Not with that attitude.
Right. Well, the next couple are some Demon Hunter nerfs. We've got Karya Fellsoul has gone from costing 6 with 6 attack, 6 health, Battlecry transform into a 6/6 copy of a demon in your deck, to everything I just said, but it's now 7.
I hate this card because it's run in Fell Demon Hunter, and the only other demon is
the colossal
sea monster one, whatever it's called. And the problem is that I would always draw the stupid sea monster before I drew this card, and then it's just a waste. Like, then it was just a 6 mana 6/6.
And now that'll happen even more.
Colossal patches.
Yeah.
You had patches, you have big patches, which is like the 5/10 taunt, and now you've got colossal patches.
Hey, there we go.
So you got one more turn to draw this now.
Well,
Or to draw the colossal, I mean, by accident, like patches.
And the colossal itself is 7 mana as well. So rather than cheating it out early, now it's just, you
Yes.
have 2 shots at getting it, which at that point you're probably not running Korea herself. So I think that this basically killed why you would want to run it in that particular deck. Now, if they continue to push forward any sort of a big demon hunter, then
it could.
Korea has possibilities for the future. But the deck that she was being played in standard is, I mean, you're not going to run her anymore. Like I don't think that you would want to, because you're not cheating anything else out early.
Yeah,
which was the point.
All right, let's all right. Well,
yeah.
What's a demon hunter in Wild anyhow? You know, actually, I think who was it?
Now she's odd.
I think it was no clapper. If I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. Hit legend with demon hunter in Wild, like today. Actually, I shared it in the Discord because I saw it at 9:00 this morning. It says, as promised, here's the deck I took to Legend in Wild Hearthstone this season. I had a blast playing the deck and found it to be pretty good too. Just hope you don't pull Azumat first because that blows harsh. So Azumat, it's big demon hunter with Azumat, Colossus of the Moon, Neptulon, Scrapyard Colossus, Silver Vanguard.
Wow.
I play it at your own risk. I mean, it is a one spicy meatball.
Didn't Wildcard's been fooling around with Big Demon Hunter forever, and he's it's fringe viable.
Yeah,
I mean, it's only going to get better with more of these cards.
It'll get better over time, probably, and
yeah.
That's
for those that are of the non-faint of heart that like to take rare brews to ladder.
He's called the deck "Prove Your Worth," which I think is very funny. And
so the reason why it's called "Prove Your Worth" is that the way that you cheat these things out is with proving grounds.
You know what? If you pull out Azumat and something Colossus of the Moon or something, I don't know. But I mean, I'm sitting in like rank 150 or something like that, or 175. I'm not touching this, but like when the month resets, I'll try it. It looks fun. I'll say that it looks like a lot of fun. So you guys want something fun? Try it out. We shared the deck list. It's in the Discord. It's in the show notes, or in the chat right now. Knock yourselves out.
Like pretty much from a meta perspective. Really a non-wild. This was really a standard card.
Anyhow. All right, then there's another Demon Hunter card as well. I guess we should talk about that.
Yeah, the next one, Battleworm Vanguard. This card can be really annoying in standard, but it's old attack was 2, old health was 2. It now has 2 attack and 1 health. And this just makes it way less sticky. Not that it was that sticky, but every single time Demon Hunter attacks, which is a lot, it summons 2 1/1s, and before you know it, their board is just completely flooded. So it's way easier for this to be taken out. You can do it with the hero power now. So I feel like this is a big hit to this card. I mean, it's still a good card, but you could kill it so easy now.
Yep.
In Wild, this card saw play in the aggro Demon Hunter deck that was meta for like 5 minutes, but the last round of nerfs basically rendered that deck unplayable. For standard, I honestly couldn't say. I hadn't played when Fell Demon Hunter became a thing. I do imagine that it is an important breakpoint, and probably people who want to play Demon Hunter will still play it. But yeah, it's that 1 health is big deal.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. I've been playing a little bit of Rogue whenever I was preparing for things, for Legacy THL stuff, and Puffer Fist. Now the effect kills this, which is one of the biggest breakpoints in that particular matchup. So I immediately saw the benefit of in this whenever I was practicing decks there, and it was very happy about that. I've played a little bit of Demon Hunter, Fell Demon Hunter before this nerf, and I mean, Battle-Worn Vanguard was strong, like pretty much since it was printed. I mean, Multi-Strike, this is incredible. This breakpoint makes it die to so many hero powers and not stick in the early game as much. I think this was a really good nerf, and if anything, I think I wish it had gone down to a 1-mana 1/1, so we could maybe possibly please see it in wild for odd.
Yeah.
But you can't get everything, right?
Yeah.
Rats. Now I'm disappointed.
I'm sorry.
All right, so that was the rest of the Demon Hunter cards. We have one rogue card, and that's Wild Pawn Null. This can be an annoying card. It's one of those cost one less for every, whatever.
The dev comment on this one was great. It was, we probably shouldn't have fully unnerfed this. Very in hindsight, and it's like,
you think?
Yeah, again, I'm gonna be the broken record here. When you have the ability to cheat out mana to such an extent consistently, you're gonna have a bad time. Turns out a 0 mana 4/5 rush, pretty good.
Pretty good. It could still be a 0 mana, but it is a 3/5 rush.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. We saw that the last go round, and it probably, I think in Wild, Mine Rogue will still run this card, but it makes it a little less backbreaking. But I don't know about Standard. But I mean, I'm happy to see the power level dip on it.
They didn't even go as hard as they did on Corridor Creeper, because that's 2/5, and it doesn't even have rush, right?
Nope.
Correct.
The power level of the game, though, is considerably higher than it was at that time. But I mean, that is probably a good point that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I feel like Rogue had largely switched over competitively more towards Pirate Rogue and less towards Thief Rogue. So I was honestly a little surprised to see Wild Paw Null. But whenever Thief Rogue was played, it was pretty much completely. Sorry, whenever Thief Rogue was played, it was pretty much completely hinged around Wild Paw Null. So I can see why. Like it was definitely an outlier in the deck, and I mean pretty much the reason why you were playing it.
Some degree of future proofing here as well.
Very good point too.
It feels like I like this because I feel like they nerfed it without breaking it or like destroying the card. Like it's not terrible, but it's not like it doesn't feel as bad anymore.
Who likes playing against Mine Rogue in Wild?
Nobody.
So the correct answer is nobody. I'm sure someone in chat's gonna be like, "I like playing Mine Rogue."
I mean, I had a positive win rate against them, but still, like, it's nah.
This is a very minor nerf to it, but anything
nerf.
Wow. Anything that takes away any power level from decks like that is probably good. But interestingly enough, because of some of the metagame shifts that we may see, you might end up seeing more of that style of rogue deck than you did previously, but we'll get to that later.
Very true.
Yeah.
All right. This one I know Sheep wants to talk about. The next one we have is a Paladin card. Light Forged Cariel is gone up 1 mana from 7 to 8. I'm quickly going to read the dev comment on this one, and then I'm going to hand it over to Sheep. But the dev comment here, just for some context, is we are happy to see hero cards pack a late game punch for their classes, but felt Cariel was providing. Sorry, got to clear my throat. I'm turning into Nate too. We're happy to see hero cards pack a late game punch for their classes, but felt like Cariel was providing that power a turn earlier than she could have been. Paladin is in a pretty healthy spot in the current metagame, And with the rest of the changes we are seeing in this patch, we expect things to stay that way. All right, Sheep. What you got?
I said that this was going to be in the pre-show that this was going to be a Mimi buff, and zombies, of course, has already nailed it. This is of course an even paladin buff. I've been inhaling that even paladin copium for a while, and I keep on trying it, and it keeps on not being good. But what does even paladin always want to do? Buff its cards. What does Cariel do with her hero power? Buff your cards. I mean, it's a match made in heaven if it was 6 mana, because 8 mana is just so big, and they're never going to bring it down to 6. So I'm going to play around with it. It's not going to be good, and I'll be like, it was fun trying it out, and then move on. But I'm still really excited to try it out again. Like, it's what the deck wants to do, even if it is 8 mana. I'm still running Call to Arms. I'm still, doing all of the things that even Paladin wants to do. This is just a late game opportunity, whereas before, even Paladin didn't really have that sustainability. Which there's the copium part, right? If I'm like, here's where it might actually be relevant. With another nerf that we'll kind of discuss in a little bit. Some of that late game burst potential that you could possibly run, you no longer can, which is unfortunate. But we'll get to that part.
Reno even Pally. That is the next level copium. Yes, agreed.
So Reno Paladin was a fairly serious deck for a minute. It still probably is decent. I can't imagine that deck is thrilled to see this card go up in cost. I can't imagine that it gets removed. I think it just lowers the power level a bit. The AoE coming down on 7 is probably relevant, so kind of hurts there. My reaction to this was, okay, Cariel gets the bump from 7 to 8. But what about Guff?
Right?
Like, I know that Druid is
it'll
not
go
in
down
the
to 4 mana.
But I mean, they did a lot of preemptive nerfs elsewhere. Like, I don't know, Guff is I mean, I don't want to start going on a Guff rant, but I think that it's I'm gonna hold that thought to when we get later on in this segment, because I think that it becomes a pretty relevant part of the conversation. Also, even though Guff isn't a problem in standard at present, the minute that Druid kind of gets a strategy from the next expansion, which presumably it will, Guff's going to be either central to that strategy or an enabler of it. I mean, there's no reason not to play Guff in every single deck, wild, standard, or otherwise. And so if it's in every wild deck by default, then it's a power outlier in standard because wild's insane. So interesting that Guff got the dodge and this one didn't. I think that this was probably this is a frustrating card to play against. It warps the metagame with oozes or the snake.
Everyone has to run Viper now. You have to, because Cariel's is too difficult to deal with no Viper.
And I peaked HS replay, and Paladin in the unsettled early meta is already kind of floating to the top, so this was probably one of the reasons why they did it. I guess I'm not surprised by this. I'm just surprised Guff dodged the nerf.
Yes.
So it's just anyways.
Completely agreed there.
I won't. I'm gonna see you every game I queue on ladder from now until the end times.
You missed me.
Yeah, the only reason I think we don't see Guff like super prolifically in standard right now is we're in a 4-set meta where the in standard where the cards and kind of strategies that Druid has doesn't have the really like critical mass of those like late game bombs, thanks to the Kazakus nerf. And I think that, and the sustainability isn't there with some of the things that have rotated, like Cenarian Ward, which we were talking about earlier. So as soon as those kind of come back, and I mean, their druids archetype. Like it's exactly what the class wants to do, like ramping mana, etc. So as soon as that comes back out, then people in standard will again, because they already have been in previous metas, be calling for a Guff nerf, and maybe he won't dodge it that time.
Here's my prediction.
Ooh.
Guff doesn't survive intact till the end of the year, the Hearthstone year.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's made it this far.
And if it does, they will eventually nail it in Wild, because it will break. It's already pushing Druid to such an extent of silliness, but
it would still see
talk more
play.
about that after.
It would still see play at 7. It would probably still see
every
play
deck.
at 8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, probably, but it wouldn't be. I think at 7 it would be
Yeah.
probably would still be very
Malfurion.
playable. Yeah, I mean Malfurion saw play forever. Now like we look at Malfurion and we're like, haha, what a silly card.
yeah. Jeez.
Anyways.
All right, we got a couple more here.
All right. Spite Lash Siren. So Naga Mage card. Old cost 4, 2 attack, 5 health. New cost 5, so up 1 and 2 attack and 6 health. So they upped its health by 1 and its cost by 1. I don't play any of Naga Mage at all. I know some people do in Standard, but I don't see this affecting us in Wild.
It doesn't affect us in Wild. I
Not at
played
all.
this a lot in Standard. This is a huge nerf, because the way that deck played in Standard, you were like basically like playing very passive the first few turns, and then you're like, is it turn 4 yet? Is it turn 4? And you slam it down on 4, coin the nag out, and get the mana cheat engine going. The fact that it's kind of being pushed to like 5 or 6 if you're on the play. Yeah, I think that it was like when this card got released, it was so obvious that this was Dark Glare for Mage, and that its days were numbered. I actually applaud them for doing this, because it made a lot of Standard players unhappy, but it was only a matter of time before this card broke the game, even in Wild. It just didn't have the right synergy yet, or the right deck wasn't discovered, but like this type of like recursive like mana enabler, like it's Dark Glare. It plays a little differently, and it's a little bit more restrictive because it locks the board, where you can lock the board, but the amount of ridiculousness that you could do with this, it was a time bomb. So I think this also falls into the theme of a future proofing type of nerf.
Yeah. Future proofing and nerfing mana cheat. I mean, slowing down mana cheat, slowing down those just big explosive turns. I mean, everything you said, 100% agreed, Blue. Like, I played some Naga Mage, and it was fun, but of course my playstyle is a little bit more just straight up aggressive than be passive in the first few turns, so it didn't kind of call to me in that way. But it was still fun whenever you had those big explosive fun turns. And from that perspective, I'm sad to see it being nerfed, but like it had to be. I really think it had to be nerfing and slowing down that mana cheat into a point where aggro actually has a chance to get under it, or control has a chance to either develop a board to contest or something, or have answers to actually contest it whenever it does get dropped. I mean, I think that's important. And slowing it down, yes, but like you said, pretty much nukes the card. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, however much it is taking a lot of people's fun away.
Yeah. Yeah. We all remember Dark Glare. So.
Yep.
So you tweeted the link about APX Void's disappointment. I was watching No Hands Gamer last night, and he said something that really kind of resonated with me, which was, how many one-class specialists are there left?
Not many.
It must be maddening to be a one-class specialist at this point of this game, because if your deck gets nerfed, like, I'm sure this is all APX Void was playing on stream, because Mech Mage, while I like it, I can see that it wasn't very good in Standard, and it's not as exciting or as interesting. Like, it's tough, or
And this
rogue
deck
specialists.
was like skill intensive also because you're bouncing. All right, Naga spell, and then it's all right. Do I have enough mana? And am I saving cards? And
Was it skill intensive? I did pretty well with it, which probably signifies that it's not so skill intensive. But
shut
yeah,
up.
You have to
You're
admit,
like
Blue,
top 100
you're a
legend.
good, yeah. you got skill though.
everything's relative. But yeah, it.
But no,
I
I mean, but I agree, and I feel bad for Draco Cat as well because Demon Hunter got nuked, and it's like, well, for the class specialists when their class gets hit super hard, it's kind of a bummer. I mean, it is what it is, I guess, but
I think we've all become post-class players. We kind of gravitate towards decks that are enjoyable. Maybe you don't like a class. Like I never was particularly a fan of Paladin, but I played a lot of hand buff Paladin when that was kind of at its apex, and I really enjoyed it. So I think that the way that Hearthstone is, we kind of went through this whole phase of trying to push class identity, and that kind of has gone by the wayside, and it's really about interesting decks, and I think that's fine, but it does run up against a traditional arena of content creation, which was the class specialization.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it, but when you push an archetype like Naga Mage with this mana cheat engine, you have to know in the back of your mind that this has a very limited shelf life.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
viable in a 4-set metagame. It would have just taken one more cheap spell or one more really good neutral Naga or Mage Naga, and the deck would have been a meta tyrant.
Yep.
And for anybody who, like, a lot of people that aren't dumping money into the game, we all know we have, but when you're specializing with one class, a lot of people just they dust everything else, right? So that they can craft for that one class that they play, and when that gets nuked, that's really not fun.
And that's really relevant. Like here, I'm going to read to you a message that a friend of mine, an IRL friend, he plays Hearthstone very casually. Usually he hits silver, in standard, and kind of stops there. I'm just scrolling up here. Apparently we had a long conversation. He writes, "They nerfed Spite Lash and Mr. Smite! ! That's my 2 decks. Naga Mage and Pirate Rogue. I don't have any more decks playable. I guess I'm out till the next expansion comes around."
oof.
And he's not like he's not the casual rager that you'll see. Like he doesn't engage with the game on Twitter or any social media. Like he's like, it happens. I explained to him that it was necessary, unfortunately. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll sit out. And it's for him, it's like, whatever, I'll just do something else. Not a big deal. But it is probably something that they have to worry about, that it does impact engagement, budget players, or class specialists. It is kind of sad to see, because I want to see my friends enjoy the game, and unfortunately there's another side to this. But I mean, I told him that you kind of went all in on Spite Lash at your own risk. And he was like, well, how am I supposed to know that? Like, he doesn't follow the game as closely as us. And it's like, yeah, it's true. You have faith that the designs that are getting pushed are going to see life for its duration.
At this point, we know if you go all in on like something that's like one of the best things, it's caution, like at your own risk, because there's a good chance it'll get cut.
So silver lining for your friend Blue, Mr. Smite still good. Pirate Rogue still really good. So if he does still want to play, and that is one of his decks, which it sounded like it was.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that one's still good. And he could still play that thing, but kind of getting a little bit ahead of I am kind of getting a little bit ahead of us there by talking Mr. Smite. So I'll back that back up.
Well, fair enough. I'll pass along the message, because I haven't really followed standard since the mini sets, so that'll be good to know. But Yeah, I will say that I'm biased because I don't have the same limited kind of card pooler budget. I like that they take chances with interesting designs. The Colossals were cool. The Nagas were really cool. They're willing to take risks, and like people will make comments like they shouldn't do these things, they shouldn't take these risks. Well, fine, but I don't want to play Hearthstone 2015 anymore. We've been there and done that, and I mean, I think that I hope that they're not dissuaded from taking these chances, even though they are high risk. They're also high reward. That makes the game fun and engaging.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different perspective, but I think that this expansion has been one of my favorites in a long time because everything they introduced was really fun. The mechs were fun. The Colossals, everyone loves the Colossals. The Nagas were great, although they kind of killed the Nagas, but that's in Mage at least. That's an aside. And I suppose Demon Hunter as well. But they took chances, and I hope they continue to do so.
Yep.
All right, we have Earthen Scales.
A wild card.
A wild card.
Wild buff.
Actually, you know what? Before we talk Earthen Scales, there's one more standard card that we should talk about. It's at the bottom of the list. School Teacher.
All right.
So let's hop down to School Teacher, then we'll hit the 3 wild cards. So School Teacher used to be 5 attack, 4 health. It is now 4 attack, 3 health. Now, I found this card quite annoying every single time I played against it. That 5 attack is hefty, and the card does a thing. This is aggressively statted. I don't think anytime I seen someone play it, I was like, oh, okay. I was always like, oh my god, really?
This was the most played standard card.
Yep.
Oh wow, I
wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
It was, yeah.
It's neutral, right? So anybody can play it. It's Naga.
It was in the dev comment, yeah.
So and I wouldn't be surprised if they still continue to play it.
This card will still see play. It's
still
actually decently statted.
It's still fine. It's still pretty good.
A light touch.
It used to have crazy premium stats for a really premium effect, and now it has not terrible stats with a premium effect. So it's not a 4/4, it's a 4/3 for 4 mana. So it's like, okay, it bumped it down to where it's not just like, oh well, I'll just throw this in any deck, because even if I'm just playing Curvestone, which standard doesn't do anyway, but even if I'm just playing Curvestone, powerful body, powerful effect, why not? And now it's like, well, there's a little bit of a trade-off because it has worse trades. It doesn't trade up as much anymore. But that powerful effect is still there. So I think this was a good nerf, because I think it's still a strong card and it will still see play. It's just no longer going to also rule the board with that powerful effect. It's still board presence, but no longer ruling it, which is what it was kind of doing before.
I've got a question. Can anybody spell Zinashari? All right. Yeah, no. I've spelled it so many times because of all the lore stuff. Oh my goodness.
It's Zen Jari.
All right.
I know that was wrong, Zen too. Like that was the joke.
That's cute. All right, let's talk about Earthen Scales.
Well, sorry, Blue. Did you want to say something about School Teacher before we move on?
No, you had me exact. It's still really good. It's still going to see play in every standard deck that was running it, and it's not going to see a day in Wild.
Agreed on all counts.
Yeah.
All right. Earthen Scales used to cost 1. Now it costs 2. They may sound like just 1 mana, but that is exactly double.
Boom.
Since when did Druid care about mana anyways?
all you skulking Geist enjoyers, my condolences. But the fact that I'm seeing more screenshots circulate with Plate Breaker in them, I like it. I like
Friendship with Skulking Geist is over.
This card was a
Playmaker is
real.
my new best friend.
This card was a real feels bad in standard. I remember that month you took Rant Druid to Legend Nate.
Yep.
And I was watching you play. Like the comeback potential from this card was just insane. Even though they nerfed the heck out of that deck, this was still very much, you cheat out the giant, you play the Earth and Scale.
It's still
you,
good. I lost to it
you
today.
push people out.
I lost to it today on my lunch break. I was playing Naga Priest against a Druid, and I got him down to 6 health. And it was like, yeah, all right, well, here's, play Guff on 5, and all of a sudden they've got 15 mana, and then there's, Onyxia comes down with a whole giant board full of little 2/1s, wipes out my whole board, plays Earth and Scale. All of a sudden the health is back up to 20. It's like, I mean,
this is why we don't have nice things.
I love the comment here. We don't normally read the comments on the podcast, but Raxia said that this, I think, no, Schmoopy Daddy, it's kind of dumb they included a wild card in the core set and it got nerfed, which is so funny.
But not for the reason that you might think, but still, I mean, it just goes to show you.
I think that Plate Breaker is bait. I think that's hilarious.
Oh, of course it's
yeah.
bait.
It's
Geist
was bait.
Geist was bait too. So here's the thing. Some Shaman decks...
Geist was okay when there was a bunch of mage running around as well. But like
the last Geist, the last big use for Geist was some Shaman decks ran it. Martian was most notable for this because it could have a decent effect against your opponent if you queued into the right matchup. Some mages, druid.
Quest
but if
Hunter,
you were playing,
Questline Hunter before that got nerfed too
sure.
was
Yeah. So you'd play Geist in your Shaman deck. So when you go through the Shutter loop, your hand wouldn't get clogged up with wind shields if you played with Sleepbreaker, so you could still play Sleepbreaker. That was the rationale for running Geist. There's absolutely no copium excuse for running Platebreaker. Although you'll find Doc Delight, formerly known as White Delight, running Platebreaker. So kudos there, my friend. I think that this is just it's a joke buff. It's not really a buff, but I mean it probably means you'll see less Geists on ladder, even though you shouldn't have been seeing any. But it probably makes Linecracker a little more awkward. I mean, they always have 20 mana anyways, but when they don't, for whatever reason, because they low-rolled Guff or they didn't get their ramp, I mean, it could make that Bees Linecracker turn a little bit more awkward, especially if they want to stack 2 of them. But
back in my day, we did Linecracker and Bees with only 10 mana, so...
the real
Again, there's this card called Guff that sees play in every Druid deck. Mechathoon, Malygos, Tog.
Not an aggro druid. Not an aggro druid.
Not in
the funny
wild
thing is,
aggro druid.
you probably could play it in...
True.
All right, you got me. 1 druid deck.
Yeah. The real nerf here. We can't get Earth and Scales off of Wandmaker anymore.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
That I cannot argue with that statement. That is a factual, correct statement.
All right, so we've been recording for an hour and 9 minutes, and we're going to hit the 2 wild nerfs now.
Yes.
Although technically, Smite was a standard nerf.
That's true.
All right. So before I say what exactly the nerf is, I'm going to read the dev comment on Lightning Bloom. All right. So Lightning Bloom has been nerfed. The comment is, as we tracked gameplay following the mini set, we noticed concerns about game experiences in Wild, particularly when it comes to big Shaman decks. These decks can sometimes ramp out very big threats early, which could make games feel like non-games. We quickly identified Lightning Bloom as the card which was creating the most problems for the format, both in the short term and long term. So we are making an aggressive adjustment to it. So aggressive, very much so, meaning this fundamentally, the card does not play the same as it used to. It is Still 0 mana, but instead of gaining 2 mana crystals this turn only, it is refresh 2 mana crystals, which is not the same at all. This card no longer functions the same.
Okay, wait, whose fault is it that Big Shaman was everywhere?
I believe it's your fault, Nate.
Nathaniel.
So here's the
He had Legend
interesting
with it
thing
before it
about-
was cool.
Yeah, well, I'm a big Shaman enjoyer. Funny enough, when I played the deck a lot, it was actually right before Scholomance came out, and Lightning Bloom was a Scholomance card. So when we put together the big Shaman deck, and a lot of the intellect that went behind it is really to the credit of my good friend NHL NJ Fan 1. Don't be fooled by the number in his name. One of the smartest minds in the game. We kind of looked at the 2 Colossals in the mini set and got excited, more so about Neptulon. But really what we originally in his list, he had a few overload cards. He had Lightning Bloom, Ancestral Knowledge, and Lightning Storm. Now, I immediately advocated for cutting Lightning Storm because it's just too slow. The overload feels too bad. You got to run the overdraft at that point. It kind of just starts to clutter up. And then we had Knowledge and Bloom. But the problem is that when you're pulling cards with investment opportunity, sometimes you want Bloom, sometimes you want AC. And so what happens if we just only run Bloom with investor opportunity?
Then you
Like,
always draw Bloom?
maybe that'll work. And it turned out that was the I hate this expression, the secret sauce that just made the deck so consistent. You always had Lightning Bloom, which means you always were able to play Muckmorpher. I find it hilarious that in the first day of June, there were people who were still saying, who will go unnamed, oh, I don't think Muckmorpher's that good, except it is when you always are able to play it on turn 2 or turn 3 with Ancestral Knowledge. I mean, the deck was just ridiculous, and I think the reason it really took off was because NHL hit rank 1 with it, 6J hit rank 1 with it, Reno Jackson I think also hit rank 1 with it.
Hydra crafted it on my free-to-play account because of that.
There you go. I had a really good run with it on day 1. I think I entered in at like 20 something, although day 1 doesn't mean much, but I had north of a 65% win rate with it. It was the nuts.
Yeah.
And I'm this kills it because now we don't care about refreshing mana, so the whole engine of the deck, like the investment opportunity to get Bloom, that's dead. So if you want to play Big Shaman now, you don't have any way of getting Ancestral Knowledge out early unless you somehow coin it with Farsight, which is a very unlikely thing.
No, back in the day we had to stall. We had to stall until turn 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you have to stall, you have to build the deck differently, and then it starts to look more like what White Delight kind of would do with the deck over the last few months, and I just think that's probably okay, but it's not going to be a meta tyrant. I had no idea that it would be this good, so I'm actually very happy that the summer of Big Shaman, as I dubbed it, unceremoniously came to an end yesterday.
The fortnight of Big Shaman.
I mean, when I was playing it 2 years ago, prior to Scholomance, I mean, it had a little bit of fringe. It was like a tier 3 deck, and I thought that was what it was going to be this time around as well. I thought that Neptulon was going to, Muckmorpher was back in vogue with the Colossals, and it turns out that we actually, like, Big Shaman had all the trappings to have been the meta tyrant. Even like Neptulon pushed it over the edge, but really it was the investment opportunity Lightning Bloom, the fact that you could just vomit out a big boy every game on turn 2 so with such regularity. I was not playing Big Shaman on EU, and I kept queuing into them, so I got to feel the pain on the other side of the matchup, and it was miserable.
Yes, indeed.
I will say I did very well against Big Shaman on my Legend climb, but
I started playing your deck, Nate, on EU for that reason.
Say you're doing pretty good with it, right?
I had a
Like 65 or
win
something.
rate.
Pretty good.
65. I could pull up my stats against
Oh,
Big Shaman. It was pretty consistent, but free Shaman for those who are curious. You can see it on Nate's Twitter.
And
Wild
yet he wasn't
EU,
running Murabi.
I
what the
was.
Do have that golden one. I should throw it in there.
Yeah, why not?
5 and
People
1
can-
against Big Shaman.
People can hover.
I
5 and 1.
was pretty high with it too, and I don't remember. But I mean, if the deck's dead now, so
this has implications for other decks as well. I thought maybe it would.
I think you're muted.
Technical
Blue.
difficulties.
Dude, I think we lost you.
Oh,
Oh, now you're back. All right.
you can hear me? Oh, weird. Okay, yeah, my computer had a little bit of a senior moment. It wasn't me. No, I was just gonna say that, like, so Big Shaman's dead. I do think that the druid decks that ran Lightning Bloom are probably not running it anymore either.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it would still see play in alignment. Most people who are good with that deck very much told me no. It is a cut, 100%. So that's gone. It's probably a cut from like Typhoon Druid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just they kind of murdered the card. The only deck I think you still run it in is like Frog Shaman.
Yeah.
Because you want the 0 spell. But even there, like, there are situations where it's going to be trickier to use. So they basically murdered the card. And frankly, it
Kinda
deserved
okay
to
with
die.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, it's OG Innervate, and again, when you have the ability to cheat that much mana so consistently, it's going to cause problems, and we saw the problems that it caused. And I had no notion that Big Shaman was going to be as good as it was, and for the reason it was. I thought if it was going to be busted, it because of the cool new Colossals. It turns out that it was the mana cheat engine that enabled you to vomit out the Colossal early, which just meant that there was no counterplay against it, and then they take like 28 damage because Neptulon can attack like 4 times, right?
Weird.
Yeah.
Seeing this trend in Hearthstone with mana cheat being OP. Strange.
But I'm still glad they take chances.
I am too. But also, my exact reaction to this nerf is 6 words. Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Oh.
And not just about Big Shaman in general, but the Lightning Bloom as a whole, the things that it enabled. I mean, I'm really glad that it has been taken down, because like Lightning Bloom was just mana cheat without any conditions, right? I mean, like, I guess there was a condition of the overload, but like you're paying that later rather than investing into it kind of beforehand. And it seems like both with this nerf and with some of the other nerfs that they've done historically and here, like From the Depths by Lash Siren, they're making you invest in the mana cheat like up front, right? And so this one, you're still getting mana cheat, but it's refreshing. And I think that's really healthy. I think that's really good. I think that the fact that you're not able to get stuff out earlier without investing in that is the way that it's kind of going towards. And I like that. Full stop.
I didn't think they were going to do it. I actually said that I had a hot take that they tend to not go after the mana cheat, and they try to eat around it because they want to keep that in. Tom Carter and NHL were like, "What are you talking about, Blue? You're out of your mind. They nerf mana cheat all the time. They're gonna kill Bloom." And I was wrong. They were right. I've admitted it on the record. I'm happy I was wrong, and now I'll never speak of this again.
I just have 2 words. Bye, Felicia.
Nice. Well, we've got
Summer of Big Shaman, June 1st to June 16th.
We need an updated graphic.
We should totally make one after. We have the date, maybe like with a wilted lightning bloom or something.
We'll do that that one with the Grant Gustin, or the guy that plays the Flash, next to that the tombstone doing the peace sign or whatever.
Summer Big Shaman.
Oh my gosh! All right, we got one card left. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Okay, maybe we'll go over broader implications of the nerf after we talk about this next one.
Sure, we've got one left that it's been nerfed for standard, but we do see this in wild, and that is my boy, Mr. Smite, has gone up in 1 mana from 6 to 7. And for me in wild, that is way too slow. I kind of just sort of want to play Leroy now. If I was gonna hit you for 6 2 turns earlier, but I think in standard this still might be okay, right?
Yeah,
like you were saying, Sheep in the rogue deck, it's still fine. And it also hurts because of Nelly, because now, oh great, it's back at 6 mana if you get it off of Nelly, right? So this one's a bit rough, but I think it'll be okay. Thoughts, guys?
yeah.
Go ahead, Sheep.
Oh, I was just going to start this off by saying I'm sad that we can't try this out in even Paladin with the Cariel buff, and I'll turn it over to you, Blue.
Oh, that would have been good.
That would have been not too terrible.
This was my day 1 golden craft and hit legend with it with Pirate Warrior. I'll never forget.
I didn't craft it in gold. I crafted it non-gold because I didn't believe. And then I played it and I believed, and I called my Pirate Warrior for the next 4 months Cow God because of Smite.
All hail.
So if this nerf matters,
Yes.
the question is to what extent. So this card in its original unnerfed state was one of the highest drawn win rate cards. I believe that was the stat in Pirate Fish Rogue. The turn 6 breakpoint was important. You're always scared, because the aggro rogue, against a control deck will do a very good job of consistently just chunking you, and you're at low mana, and then you're always worried around turn 5, turn 6. Oh my god, are they going to play a Smite that got boosted by Swordfish, or just and with Parachute Brigand, or if you still have the weapon up with Dread Corsair, adds even more burst potential. So at 7 it slows it down a little bit. And the question is, someone asked me, well, you just take it out for Leroy, it's the same difference. It's not the same difference, because it doesn't have the collateral effect, which was very strong, making your other pirates have charge.
Yep.
And most importantly, it is not a pirate. When I was playing aggro rogue very early days before we got the refined list that we have today, I was running 2 less pirates with Eviscerate. Terrible idea, but not for the reason that you might think. It just made the dredging of your Swordfish less consistent. So if we're going to cut Smite, we are going to have to replace it with another pirate. And the question then becomes, what? And I wonder if it's just going to stay.
I'm going to just keep it.
Later,
I'll just
you're
keep
just going to keep it?
Yep.
I think that, so what's interesting is that there's a lot of debate between some of the best minds in the game, and what I said yesterday was, we're not going to have to really debate this for long, because enough people are going to keep it that we're going to see the data. And that will largely be deterministic of it. And I think that if it does stay, it's not because the nerf doesn't matter. It absolutely does, especially in a deck where turn by turn every turn matters, but because there isn't a better alternative.
I agree with you 100%. The nerf hurts, but Fish Rogue is so fast that there are often times that you're winning before you're playing Smite. Smite was just an amazing finisher, but you nailed it. I played a ton of that deck, a lot of it, and that's what got me my 11x back. And this card carries games as well, and like you mentioned, the synergy between this is wild. We cheat out cards all the time between our 1-mana stuff and our brigands and patches and everything else. It's like you need the pirate synergy, and because of the dredge synergy with the fish, like that was one of the things I think when we cut Eviscerate from the list early on. It's like it was such a bad feeling to dredge with the fish, the swordfish, and not get a pirate. And so it was like, all right, Eviscerate's got to go.
Oh, in hindsight, it was terrible. But we can look at these things now and ask what we're rethinking. But I mean, it's funny, we gravitate to these aggressive decks just because of our playstyle preferences, but it also means that we're also very much part of that refining process. I'm going to say this. I want Smite to still be good, and I want Aggro Rogue to still be a meta contender. And that might not be a popular opinion, but I think when you zoom back, right, and look at the landscape, they nerfed Lightning Bloom. It was absolutely correct. But they didn't go further. And I don't think that keen observers are terribly surprised due to their design philosophy. They went further in Standard. Holy moly. They like, we're just going to come in with a wrecking ball and change the meta. But, Ben says Smite is dead. Sorry, that means Smite's still playable. Hey, Ben. I kid. But he may be right. We're going to find out soon enough because enough people are going to still play it. But let's game it out. If Aggro Rogue is weakened, then we don't really have a good aggro deck in the meta anymore. The mech decks are good. They're not quite good enough, especially when they lose single-handedly to cards like Poison Seeds and Devolve. Druid, even though it lost Lightning Bloom, still has Twig Sphere and Guff left untouched.
And
some of the
Embiggen.
biggest power swings of the game. And Embiggen, for us Embiggen enjoyers. That's going to become a really dominant deck. And what happens when the meta degenerates into a greed fest? And there's no aggro deck to kind of take its flank. What are we going to see rise to counter the greed?
Combo!
More greed. And Quest Mage, another deck that didn't get touched, which I'm a little surprised about because the feels bad of the feels bad. Nothing feels worse than losing to 3 ice blocks and someone taking 5 to 8 extra turns in a row and pecking you to death with the parrots.
I'm going to go barf. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I mean, we can see Quest Mage. And I think what we're going to see that at High Legend because there's already a propensity to play less aggro. People were playing lots of Pirate Rogue just because it was that good that it had a high population. But that was the only thing keeping that kind of greedy dynamic in check. And I'm really worried that depending on how impactful this nerf is, we can really see that shift to Greed Lord Fest. And then you get like the weird kind of like the weird counters to it at mid to lower legend and rank ladder, like the ticketus stuff and all that. And it's just, I don't know. It's not, I worry about that. Although hopefully, as they say, they'll be keeping an eye on it. But who knows? Maybe Aggro Rogue is still fine, but it's really the last honest aggro deck. It's like the secret mage of the current format. It's like, or what Pirate Warrior, even though everyone hated Pirate Warrior before, it kept the format somewhat honest because you could only go so greedy before you got punished, right? So it's that equilibrium of aggro, control, combo that we see here. So I'm gonna be watching the data on Smite really closely. In fact, I'm gonna pull it up right now since the patch. I wonder if we already have some data.
We might have a little.
Since I'm an HS premium enjoyer. So if I go to cards, wild, can we do it since the patch? Let's see here. Yep, we certainly can. Diamond through legend. Rogue. Where's Rogue? There's Rogue. Deck win rate. Smite still has a 57.3% win rate. Now it's only a day.
Yeah, it's still early days. Low sample size so far.
It's still looking playable because it's
Yeah.
in a large portion of the decks. And by the way, it has the same win rate as Fillet Fighter and Prize Plunder. If I sort by legend only, the data's really small. I don't even know if this is really meaningful. Yeah, we don't see it at all. But I think that's by virtue of people just not playing it as opposed to it doing poorly, because I don't even see it even post up. But Diamond through Legend, it's still. Zombie said that Corbett said that it's still playable. I'd say that I can see why one might think that. The Mulligan win rate is really low. No one ever wanted to keep it in the Mulligan.
No, but we didn't want to keep it in the Mulligan anyways, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's probably the best of your worst options. I heard one suggestion, I believe this was also Corbett's suggestion, was taking out Smite and taking out one Cutlass Courier, that's the 2/5 pirate that allows you to draw when you attack, and replacing it with two Amalgams of the Deep. I never was terribly impressed with Amalgam of the Deep in that deck, but perhaps that's, at least you're replacing it with pirate cards that can dredge. I think that's the really important thing. But you probably just, it was like with the pirate warrior nerf. Even though the card got nerfed, you kind of just say, well, it's worse, but it's still good enough, and kind of stick with it.
Amalgam of the Deep can be anything. It can even be Smite.
For the old men who watched the first season of Family Guy, it's a great reference. Great reference.
Yeah, I think honestly that this nerf, both for standard and wild, is probably, especially if, as the early data seems to suggest, Smite is still playable and super competitive. Slowing it down, I think that's really healthy. I mean, like, having strong aggro is important. Having, a powerful effect like Smite does, not just in the charge, but also the ancillary effect of all of your pirates having charge, super impactful. Having that cost a little bit more, and having only being able to include cheaper pirates in that makes sense. Honestly, less relevant for us here in Wild, kind of that aspect. It's more just the kind of slowing it down, which Pirate Rogue was, if not the undisputed, number one, especially after the Lightning Bloom nerf. At the very least, heavily in contention for number one with that Lightning Bloom nerf.
I just don't want to see more Quest Mage, honestly. Like,
I'm
not a fan. I'm not a fan of Slow Druid, but like,
yeah,
I don't even know. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. Honestly, I might just keep exploring Nate's free Shaman. I might require some tweaks depending on how the metagame goes. But I've
you can very easily. That deck has changed so much over time. There was times when it was sometimes it runs Boom Pistol Bully, sometimes it runs, it's the ultimate like
Mutinous.
Tech W deck. I will never run Mutinous in it. I hate that. But like, I think it dilutes your I've won so many games because their ice fishing pulled Mutinous instead of Flurgle Tox, but so I'm not a proponent of that, but still, I think that. So what we have to look at, right, is if the two tier 1 decks got hit, what does that what does that leave? And it's the various Druid builds and Quest Mage and Freeze Shaman.
I agree with your face, Hydra. Hydra visibly grimaced and
looked like somebody farted. Yeah.
I think that Wild is regardless of how things settle, it's going to follow the same pattern it has pretty much since what was that expansion last year? The one we all disliked.
What
the
was it? Oh, Stormwind.
Stormwind.
I love Stormwind.
The despair. Yeah, I liked it. I liked Stormwind reminded me of Mean Streets of Gazatan, right? I didn't like the meta when the set came out, but I really liked the cards. And so I think we'll maybe look at Stormwind more fondly as more time goes on. But
I
like,
loved
the
Quest
difference-
Hunter. I know it like ruined the game for a lot of people, but not for me.
It was fun.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what I thought about Quest Hunter. The
Keep it family friendly.
people were deriding me for being a big Shaman main, so I asked if that was an improvement over being an odd Quest Hunter main, and apparently the answer was marginally yes.
The answer
Seems
is
that I gravitate towards these to these toxic decks. But what I was trying to say is that the difference between the meta contenders in Wild and everything else kind of seems to just be there's just such a large gap. You've got a handful of decks that are so finely tuned that you can't really explore creative deck building and try and be competitive and maybe play certain play styles that you otherwise would gravitate towards. So I wish that they would take more of an active hand in managing some of the power outliers in Wild. It's great that they nerfed Bloom, like it was absolutely needed and necessary, and even if things don't end up quite the way that I'd like, it's still an improvement over what would have been if they didn't touch it. But I really would like to see things like Twig Sphere be looked at, Oaken Summons. I mean, those types of things. I know I'm picking on Druid, but you know, those types of big swings. Toxfin in Warlock. The real feels bad, like Swinger's Ice Block.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last Mage. But I think that's wishful thinking, and I mean, I'm just happy they took the steps they did, and you know, maybe with more time, they'll reverse their decision on how much of an interventionist take they want to have within Wild. Anyways, I'm rambling a little bit, so my apologies, but lots to say there, but
Oh, absolutely. It's a good topic and it's fun to talk about. I want to keep our eye on Smite and just keep watching the data. Like, I mean, this just happened yesterday, and so let's kind of, I don't know, we'll have to keep an eye on it over time and see what happens. And
it's looking not too bad, honestly, so far. And I think that enough people are gonna just keep running it.
I just can't think of anything better to stick in its place. I mean,
Especially in the rogue deck, right?
You don't
want
put
the pirate.
Leroy in.
Yeah.
no,
I
No,
asked if
I wouldn't
maybe-
put Leroy in that deck if I was playing something else. Like
I
Yeah. The
openly
pirate
mused
dredge
of-
is
Guy Captain Crag as like the finisher, maybe, but you don't really go wide with that deck.
right?
So I don't know. Probably not. We'll see.
We'll see.
Someone far more intelligent than I will optimize it, and we shall see.
and the data
By the way, just as
combined
a
is smarter than
interesting,
all
so
of us.
I had a hot take about Guff that it doesn't survive the year untouched. I'm also going to say the same thing about Swordfish. Like, I feel like Swordfish is going to become at some point like an out of control card in Standard, and they're going to have to touch it. Like, I feel that's going to happen maybe in set 2 or set 3. I don't think Swordfish survives untouched.
We like
see
bold
that.
predictions here, so we'll have to keep an eye on these two
Memorialize
things.
it.
That's right. That's right.
I'll admit if I was wrong, like I did with Lightning Bloom.
Hey, very good. All right, friends. Well, lots of nerfs. Let's kind of segue quickly into our weekly challenge and get things kind of wrapped up, since we've got a listener series match waiting in the wings here. But we have quite an achievement over here that our friend Ulticon like doubled down this week. I'm just gonna pass it over to Sheep so I don't start coughing, but this was pretty impressive.
Yeah, so for our weekly listener challenge, last week's challenge was most healing with a single card. So, you know, for example, if you hover over it in the timeline, that one card will have done that thing. And Ulticon healed. It's got to be a record. 3,072 health with one card. Absurd.
It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. I'm sitting here thinking, well, if I, Amara Reno Jackson, I could get 39. This is like, it just add a 0 to it. 3,072. This is
Gross.
It's criminal.
Too bad you can't actually have that much health. I mean, I guess you could maybe on a minion, but not on your face. But that's nuts. That's crazy.
Well, and get
You
this.
can have that much mana, just not that much health.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that was good.
Well, and so I think last week Sheep had made a silly, maybe flippant comment, and so the part 2 of this is equally as impressive.
Yes. So my lucky number for pretty much as long as I can remember is 586. So I kind of tripled down on the amount and was like, hey, if anyone can heal for exactly 586, I'll throw in a little bit more. And so Ulticon also was able to heal for exactly 586 as well.
How in the world is that even possible? There it is. It's up on the screen. I didn't have it ready, so I just dropped it in. But it's
that's amazing.
Like, that is some. Now it's against the Innkeeper, so you get to like carve a tiny bit off of that. But like the math involved in this is absurd. I that's just good Photoshop, I'll tell you. That's how I would do it anyways. I'm joking. I'm not saying Ulticon cheated. This is incredible. I'm just.
No, you're just saying you cheat.
Yes. Yeah.
Precedent
I was
set.
clear on that.
You got me.
So to honor Ulticon's achievement, I will be buying them the next Hero Portrait bundle that releases individually. So that comes out of my pocket, not anything to do with the show that way. So Ulticon and I have connected that way, and that's kind of what we came upon. So congratulations, Ulticon, to both achievements.
Incredible. Yes.
My very specific 586, as well as honestly, I don't know if it's got to be significantly more impressive with the 3,072.
Yeah, and for the record, that wasn't the 3,072 was not against the Innkeeper.
No.
The Innkeeper restriction is for our official show restrictions.
Right,
that was not on mine. Yeah. The 586 being so specific, it did not have the same restriction there. So congratulations to Ulticon. You, of course, have won our 2-packs on us, as well as the ever-coveted immortalization on the Born to Be Wild Hall of Fame on our website. So congratulations to Ulticon for 2 mind-boggling achievements there.
Absolutely. Yeah. This will be up on our website this weekend, and so check it out. The screenshots. This is why we started doing it, because these things are so incredible. Like, you got to see the screenshot to kind of like let it sink in for a minute. Like, it's just absurd. And so scroll through that Hall of Fame sometime, and you'll be astounded at some of the screenshots that we've got there. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. So, what are we thinking about for this week's challenge?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to put Blutrane on the spot because he looks particularly ponderous presently.
Oh dear, I am not good at this at all. Okay, so I've been playing a deck called Copper Hunter.
Okay.
It's basically a Beast Hunter deck that runs Tundra Rhino and a lot of cheap beasts and draws with Starving Buzzard. One of the cool interactions with that deck is what you can do with Tundra Rhino and the Colossal Hydra, whatever, the one with the 2 heads.
Hydrolodon.
Hydrolodon thing. I was going to say hydrologist. I'm like, no, that's the Murloc. So perhaps maybe something with Hydrolodon. You can get a lot of really cool OTKs, right? So perhaps maybe the biggest someone's gonna do this like in 5 seconds. This is why you don't have me do the challenges. But like I saw some people get like full boards of like Hydra heads and then do like ridiculous amounts of damage. So the most amount of damage in one turn with Hydralodon, perhaps that might be B or C tier of a weekly challenge, but that was one of the cool interactions that kind of made me feel like that was like a Born to Be Wildish sort of interaction. So
And
maybe
I'm
something like
in
that.
it. Hydralodon.
There you go.
Yeah, completely on brand.
I like it.
Yeah, so the most damage you can do with a single Hydralodon, which of course includes the Hydra heads. Like, let's be real, that's an integral part of that. So, since that one requires a little bit more than one single screenshot, Hearthstone Deck Tracker is your friend. So, Hearthstone Deck Tracker or Firestone, both are appropriate for submission. So, how do you submit that? Well, first, to participate in this challenge, either in casual or on ladder, not against a friend, they'll help you cheat, not against the Endkeeper, he won't try and help you cheat, but he will. He's a good friend like that. So we don't want you to tank your rank and make you do it on ladder, but we also don't want to make it too easy. So casual or on ladder. So then hop on to the Born to Be Wild Discord and post the not screenshot this go around, but Firestone or Hearthstone Deck Tracker HS replay into our weekly challenges channel. For that one, be sure to let us know what turn that happens, because otherwise we have to watch the whole thing, which I'm sure that we'll want to for some of them anyway. But I mean, for identifying what turn it happens, let us know what turn that happens in. So in the Discord, in the weekly challenges channel, drop that replay there, and the winner will be announced on next week's show, just like UltiCon was tonight, and will receive 2 Hearthstone packs on us, and of course be immortalized in the Hall of Fame on the Born to Be Wild website.
So one of the keen observers in chat noted that Mark McZ did something with this already.
Oh, there you go.
But here's your opportunity to out Z Mark McZ.
Yeah.
I love
This
it.
is
And
the way.
post your video. Get even more YouTube views.
Hey man, you have me. You put me on the spot for a challenge. It's going to be suboptimal, but I think this is I could have come up with far worse. So this is probably passable as far as
this is a fun one.
As far as challenges go. Yeah, it's a cool interaction, and I did not perform well with Copper Hunter because that deck is exceedingly hard to pilot. But I did really enjoy playing with the Colossals. Are just so cool.
They're very cool.
Any excuse to play the Colossals,
right? Yeah. Very cool, friends. Well, hey, we're looking forward to seeing all the kind of different crazy things that y'all can come up with. And that is going to wrap it up for this week's show. We are going to bounce briefly just to jump back into our listener series match. But wanted to say thank you, especially to Blutrane for joining us tonight. Always enjoy hanging out with you. But particularly having you on the show is always a treat for us. And so thank you for giving us your thoughts. And of course, friends, appreciate y'all being here. We will see you all next week on another episode of
Born to Be Wild.
So,
Bye,
of course,
everybody.
if you're watching live with us, stick around, and we're going to be watching that listener series match presently.